The 1%er Podcast with Sam Bakhtiar, bringing you the 1% knowledge to help you reach your full potential. Learn what it takes to rise above the 99% and become a 1%er.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Sam Bakhtiar, host of 1% Podcast. I'm here with my brother from another mother, my Arata Brother Syndicate, my good friend, car enthusiast, real estate investor. I mean, the man that just does it all, family man, businessman. I mean, this guy is a 1%er in all areas of life. We are a week away from his event, Thrive. Yeah. And even though he's busy, a million things is happening, he's gracious enough to come to the man cave and spend some time with me. Cole, what's happening, brother?
Dude, this is the ultimate man cave. And I love that you threw car enthusiast out there because I'm going to be quite distracted in this. Looking at all this car art in here, bro. Jealous.
It's crazy because I've known of you for a long time. Mm-hmm. I've seen you everywhere. Then we met at Pebble Beach. Yeah. You know, we're looking at some cars, and all of a sudden, you know, we started talking and we hit it off, and we had so much in common. You have two beautiful girls. I have two beautiful girls, and you love cars. And next thing you know, we're brothers at the syndicate.
Yeah, totally. No, that was cool getting a chance to meet you there and just hang out. And then, like you said, over dinner and some wine, realizing that we really are brothers from another mother. And you forgot to say we both have huge guns.
Yes, yes.
No, I'm just kidding. Every time I'm with you, man, you challenge me. But no, yeah, dude, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show. And I'm just excited to continue to bro out with you, dude.
You know, it's funny because I thought I'd known you, but before you came, and I know you want to have you on the podcast, I dug real deep in your history, you know, and
that
I found
makes
out.
Me a little nervous.
Yeah, you know, I dug deep in your history. We all have a history, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I see you right now at this point in your life. You know, you have everything. You know, beautiful house in Costa Casa. You know, beautiful family, beautiful business, beautiful daughters. Yeah. You know, you're making an impact in the world. Yep. But there was a time that you weren't doing all that. You know, and I know one thing that really happened to you that kind of like totally changed your life is the car accident.
Yeah.
Okay. I really want to know about that. Can you dig deep into it? Because I know we're like cars and stuff like that. Yeah. I read somewhere that you got ejected out of a car doing like 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. So my two best friends and I, we were going out to Las Vegas.
Is that Matt and Steve?
Yep. Matt and Steve. And we were not in a car like this. We were in a lifted Toyota 4Runner, a little SUV. And Steve was driving. Matt was in the passenger seat, and I was in the back seat because I didn't call shotgun fast enough, right? And long story short, we're driving from Southern California to Las Vegas. You've made that drive before. Yeah. 2-lane freeway, well, 2 lanes each direction, 4 lanes total, in the middle of nowhere, right? You're in the desert. And we ended up getting into a car accident. We were in somebody's blind spot. I don't remember any of the accident. This is all from the police reports. But we were in the fast lane, they were in the slow lane, and they changed lanes into us. So their back left connected with our front right, which caused the car to flip end over end. And I was wearing my seatbelt, but when you're wearing a seatbelt, it stops you from front impact. The only thing that stops you from back is the seat itself. And because of the way the car was flipping, I hit the seat so hard that it broke and laid flat, and I shot out the back window. So I have pictures of the car at the junkyard, all destroyed, and you still see my seatbelt's buckled, but I slipped out of it backwards, if that makes sense. And so is that what, you know, and the speed limit out there is 75, you know, on your way to Vegas. And so we were only going about 80. We weren't being reckless, no drinking, driving. That person just didn't check their blind spot, and that was it. So ended up getting ejected. They had to shut the freeway down in both directions, land a helicopter, and rush me to a hospital not too far from here, Arrowhead Regional, because it was the closest hospital to where I was that had the trauma doctors and resources I needed because of my injuries, and an ambulance to the Barstow Hospital out there wouldn't have worked because I had a traumatic brain injury. I was bleeding out of everywhere. And, you know, I lost a lot of skin hitting the pavement at 80 miles an hour, so I was not stable. So they landed a helicopter, rushed me there, and saved my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, when I was looking at, the notes, I'm like, okay, you know, there was probably a bunch of kids drinking and driving, and that's what I had in my, because that's what I used to do. Right. You know what I mean? But you guys weren't doing anything reckless, you know, like you were just going and, you know, it was just a freak accident.
Yep, weren't speeding, weren't drinking. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, just on our way out to Las Vegas. And so Steve, the driver, he also got ejected out of the driver's window. And Matt, who was in the passenger seat, stayed in. He didn't get ejected. So he was very hurt. He had a concussion and glass and laceration. So he got rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. They gave him stitches, kept him overnight, and released him the next day because he had a concussion, so they want to make sure he was okay. But Steve and I both were airlifted to Arrowhead Regional, where they rushed us into the ER and, took care of us and did whatever our injuries were at the time.
Okay, so there's no fatalities in that?
Oh, no. Yeah, no. Steve didn't survive. So.
Okay, so tell me about it. Okay, so Steve was driving.
Yeah.
Okay, so he got airlifted. So, so both of you guys got airlifted.
Yeah.
You survived, and what happened to Steve?
Yeah, so Steve's injuries were different than mine. I had a traumatic brain injury, and I had bruising on my lower spinal cord called a contusion. So temporarily lost the use of my lower body, but as the bruising subsided, it wasn't a permanent injury. My legs came back. I did physical therapy and basically learned how to walk again. And as of today, I'm totally healthy. But Steve had so much internal bleeding that they were unable to stop it, and his injuries were critical. And so, man, it was a gnarly story. But yeah, so I don't remember any of it. Because of my brain injury, I don't remember about a week before the accident, and I don't remember 3 weeks after the accident. It's just like a missing month from my life. And it wasn't because I was in a coma. I was awake after the accident. I just don't remember any of it. My brain couldn't memorize what was happening. So all of that's gone. I don't even remember going to Vegas. It was all just told to me through the police reports, the eyewitnesses, and then my parents, who then obviously were called and went to the hospital. And the only memory I have of the entire event was my mom telling me that Steve wasn't going to make it, and me telling the nurses and the doctors, take me to him right now. And they're like, no. And I was like, screw everybody. I'm going to unplug everything and go myself. And so luckily they were super cool. They threw all my machines in my lap, all these wires hanging out of me everywhere. I had IVs and tubes all over, and they threw it all in my lap and wheeled me down to Steve, where I got to hold his hand for about the last 40 minutes of his life until he finally passed. Yeah, and then he was an organ donor, so the surgeon's like, you need to leave now, because they were going to donate his kidneys to somebody.
So you see basically your best friend die. I'm gonna start getting teary-eyed about it.
Yeah.
How does that make you? How does that make you feel? God, man, it can be. I don't mean to be all like a little girl crying here, man, but it's kind of traumatic, traumatic, right?
Yeah, dude. No, so
gosh,
it changed everything. I got in a really ugly place very quickly, and so to get a call right now that my best friend passes away would be tragic. Get off camera and have Tori tell me that this had happened. It would be hard. To be in the accident with Steve, in the helicopter with Steve. Both of us weren't supposed to survive with my brain injury. The way brain injuries work is those first 48 hours are really critical because of your brain swelling, and so you have a high chance of fatality, but if you make it past those 2 days, then you have a high chance of survival. It's just that really critical window with brain injuries. And so when we arrived at the hospital, they were like, we don't know if either of them will make it. And then the fact that I did and Steve didn't, and the fact that the only memory I think God let me keep, the only memory I have of any of it is my mom standing at the foot of my bed telling me that Steve wasn't going to make it, me throwing an absolute fit, them taking me down there, holding Steve's hand. And then the last memory I have before it goes black was the actual surgeon that worked on me when I arrived, happened to be on staff, saw Steve had passed and saw me wheeling by. And he actually kneeled down and introduced himself, and he had tears rolling down his cheeks. And he said, I just want you to know I'm your surgeon. I worked on you when you got here. And he said, with your injuries, you should not have survived. He said, people come in here every day who have less, their accidents aren't as bad as yours was, and their injuries are nowhere near as bad as yours were, and they don't survive. He said, the fact that you're surviving is a miracle. And then he literally said, as your doctor, I have no medical explanation as to why you lived. All I can tell you is that someone up there must have a plan for you. Mm-hmm. And then, he's crying as he's telling me this, and then that's my last memory I have. So the only memory I have is about 90 minutes. Mom telling me about Steve, me holding his hand the last 45 minutes. And I feel like, without getting too deep, because now I'm gonna get all emotional. I've told the story enough times that I almost tell it like it's not my own life. I think that Steve waited for me. I think that, because literally he had been fighting, and then I got there, and then 45 minutes later he passed. And so I think God let me keep that memory. I think Steve waited for me. And so it destroyed me.
How about Matt? Matt was okay?
Matt survived. But the rest of the story goes that 60 days later, I had graduated out of my wheelchair onto crutches. So after the car accident with Steve, I had to move into my parents' house. Mm-hmm, yeah. I'm a 21-year-old. I was a firefighter at the time. I was doing my career, had my independence, had my own place, got in an accident, as you know, and I had to move back in with mom and dad because I literally couldn't feed myself. I was really bad. I had to be carried to the toilet, you can imagine. My buddies would take turns like taking me in and out of the bathtub. It was bad. And so fast forward 60 days, and I had healed to the point where I was on crutches. So I was using crutches to get around, and my legs were healing. And Matt, the other survivor of the accident, my other best friend, wanted to celebrate the fact that I was no longer in a wheelchair. And he's like, dude, let's go ride dirt bikes. And I was like, how am I gonna ride dirt bikes? And he's like, that's the point, you sit on dirt bikes. He just was trying so hard to get me back into my old routine, because I was slipping into a deep depression. I had tremendous grief losing Steve, but I had soul-crushing guilt that I survived and he didn't. And I haven't served in our military, and not to take anything away from our military at all, but I feel like I can relate to their experiences of going into battle and seeing their brothers, lose their lives. And then they say, we were right next to each other. Why did I make it and they didn't?
So you had like a kind of PTSD syndrome.
Totally. Yeah. And so that's not to take away from military, because I was not in a war.
No, of course not.
But that conversation that I've had with veterans who say, like, I went into battle, all of us came out alone, and I don't know why I'm here and they're not. That's kind of the way I felt. Is I lost Steve in an accident that I was in. I shouldn't have survived. There's no medical explanation why I did. Why am I here and he's not? So that grief and guilt was killing me. So Matt
was trying to get you to cheer up.
Yeah, he's like, dude, let's get you back into your old routine. We used to love riding dirt bikes. Let's go ride dirt bikes. I finally agreed after like a week of him bothering me. So it was about 66 days after the car accident. We go out on our dirt bikes, and another very long story short, we fell into a mine shaft. So here in Southern California, apparently there are estimated 40,000 abandoned mines.
So what is a mine shaft?
So normally in movies, whenever you see mine, it's usually like dug into a hill, and there's like the tunnels and like Indiana Jones style. Mm-hmm. Most of the mines, they just dig straight down. They have whatever technology, I'm not a miner, that tells them that there's gold or silver in the ground.
So straight down.
And they dig straight down. And so there are apparently no laws that once the gold is all done, they just pack up their stuff and leave. Or the silver, in this case, is a silver mine. Once it's all dug out, there's no law that says they need to fill it back in, put a cover on it, put a fence around it. They just leave. And supposedly there's 40,000 abandoned mines just like that in Southern California alone. So we're in a very popular dirt biking place where we're supposed to be. Of course, the mine shaft place said we were trespassing. We were right where we were supposed to be. And Matt was first. I was riding right behind him. We were going very slow because I could hardly walk. It was just getting out and doing my old things again. So we're in like third gear, 25 miles an hour, putting around real slow, right? He's first, I'm second. And I see him go up this little incline and disappear across the top, just because, if I'm standing on the bottom of your driveway, I can see the lip, but I can't see what's on the other side. So I see him get to the top and disappear. I assume he's on the top of a flat plane and he's just moving along. I get to the top and there's a huge hole. It's 20 by 10 feet and it goes straight down and I fall into it.
Fuck.
Yeah, dude. No warning at all. You get to the top and it's just there. There isn't like 10 feet and then the hole. It's like almost like an anthill or a volcano. Like it's not a volcano, but it's just.
I know what you mean, though.
Hole.
Yeah, go right.
So as I was falling in, I ditched my bike and kind of kicked it off and reached to my left as far as I could. And I grabbed a bush about the size of a basketball, like smaller than the rim of your Performante right there. And I was able to hang onto it with one arm, just stare down into straight blackness, just like Indiana Jones. Dude, I'm literally hanging there, just staring straight down. And I was able to, remember my legs hardly worked. I was just in a car accident 60 some odd days earlier. So I was able to pull myself out, climb out, call 911. Long story short, Matt's mom and dad were called, my parent, everyone was called. The news reporters were all out there because they're all about the drama. The police were there, the firefighters were there. They set up their rigs and they went all the way down to try to go get Matt. And it took forever. The accident, I think, happened at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's like now 8 o'clock at night and they're still messing around. I'm like, what is taking so long? Finally, the police chaplain says I need to speak to the family and he pulls us aside. And it's Matt's mom and dad. Steve, who I just lost 66 days earlier, was his mom and dad. My mom and dad and my youth pastor, Brian, who came out there when he heard what was happening. And the police chaplain said, obviously, this is a mine shaft. And then he said, the problem with mine shafts like this is there's just one hole dug in, but once they're in there, they dig in all different directions looking for silver. So sometimes people fall in, bounce into one of those, and we can never find them ever again. And so he said, the good news is we finally found Matt. And I just had tremendous relief. Because I was like, dude, there's no way I'm going to lose Matt. Like, I just lost Steve 66 days earlier. Matt and I both survived. Steve didn't. There's no way I'm losing Matt 60 days later, right? And so they said the good news is that we found Matt. And I remember just like this warm feeling of relief washing over my body. And then he said, the bad news is this is the deepest mine shaft I've ever seen in my career. It's 780 feet deep. Matt fell all the way to the bottom and didn't survive. And I literally, dude, just like you right now, like I almost fainted. I didn't, but I just felt weak. I felt like I was gonna throw up. All the color went out of my face. You know, the police like sit down, and and so I lost Matt. It took them about another hour to get him out.
Shit.
And so now it's like 9 o'clock at night. Again, not messing around, totally sober, having fun in a very popular dirt biking area with hundreds of other dirt bikers
in the span
around.
of 2 months, you had 2 tragic things happen.
Yeah.
You weren't supposed to survive. You did brain injury, spinal contusion, lost Steve, and now you lost Matt.
66 days later.
You're already in depression. Now I can imagine you probably went to a deeper depression.
Oh yeah, worst.
What at this point, what do you do? What were you doing? how can you
Self-destruction,
even tell me about that? Because I don't even know what to do. I'm just like putting myself in how you feel. I'm like fucking getting angry right now.
Yeah, no, so they bring him up. He's still wearing his helmet, and you could see like his visor had been ripped off. His helmet was all shredded. It was not a good fall, and his body was wrapped in a blanket. So all you could see was his body in a blanket. I could just see his eyes through his face mask. I could see his eyes were closed, and I had to say my goodbyes to the second time in 66 days. So I went into, man, I didn't know we were gonna go so deep so fast. But so I then went into absolute self-destruction mode. After my car accident with Steve, I was prescribed heavy narcotic painkillers, like morphine pills and Vicodin pills and stuff from my accident. Right. And when the pain went away, I stopped taking them, but I had like literally bottles of the stuff. And so I started taking handfuls of it. I wasn't trying to commit suicide, but I didn't want to be alive. So I didn't like write a note and say, I'm gonna overdose and kill myself, but I was like, I can't deal with this anymore. So like my morphine, I was supposed to take like 1 pill every 8 hours. I took like 4, right? And then I realized if I would take these hardcore painkillers and drink hard alcohol with it, that I would fall asleep at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I wouldn't wake up till like 11 a.m. the next day. And I was just alive less. And the few hours I was alive, I didn't feel anything because I was freaking doped up and drunk or whatever, right? And I made that for a whole month. My parents didn't know I hid it well. They just knew that I was tired and that I was sad, and they just didn't know what I was doing. And still living at their house from the accident. I'd just gotten onto crutches. Like literally I was finally getting some freedom and mobility back. I could take myself to the restroom when this happened. So still living at my parents' house, recovering from the accident. And then what really compounded it was Steve, Matt, and I in the car accident. We lost Steve, Matt and I survived, and now I lost Matt. So that was another eerie part of it, was that like there were 3 of us, then there were 2 of us, and then it was just me. And so I started taking these pills, drinking. I made it all the way until December 18th. So I lost Steve on September 10th. I lost Matt on November 14th, 66 days later. And then I started self-sabotaging, destroying myself till like December 18th. And I'll never forget it. I'd taken a handful of pills, more than ever. More than ever. I just wasn't even counting. I just like poured out the bottle, swallowed them all, had my bottle of alcohol right there that I was just gonna drink right out the bottle. And I just start yelling at God. And I was like, why didn't you stop this? And how could you let this happen? And then I start talking to Steve and Matt, and I'm just angry. And then I, in that moment, found absolute clarity. I didn't hear an audible voice. I didn't see a vision. It wasn't a burning bush or anything, but like a download in my brain is the best way to explain it, where I just had absolute vivid clarity on what I needed to do. It wasn't an idea, way stronger. It was like a plan downloaded in my brain. And I realized instantaneously in that moment that Steve and Matt lost their lives. And for me, either throwing mine away or killing myself, like just being an alcoholic drug addict the rest of my life and being a loser, or actually overdosing and killing myself, was like the ultimate disrespect and like the worst thing I could do to honor their memories. And that literally I was being a little bitch and feeling sorry for myself, like I was a victim of circumstances, like, oh, my life is so tough, which, and this is rough. I mean, I certainly didn't want to go through that. But I was playing the victim card and people understood. And I realized in that second that doesn't honor them. Yeah. And that if I had been one of the ones to die and that one of the 2 of them had stayed alive, that they'd be doing something with it. Yeah. That they wouldn't be being babies about it. And so I realized in that moment that I needed to do something bigger with my life than I ever thought I would, so I could live big enough for the 3 of us. And I just knew right there in that moment that when I see them again, and I will someday, and when I'm face to face with my Creator, that I'm gonna point back down at my time, and I'm gonna say I used every gift, every moment, every opportunity. I used every relationship. I lived well, but I didn't keep anything for myself. I gave it all away and I did it for you guys. And hopefully by that time, millions of lives have been impacted. And that's eventually what turned into Thrive was this moment where I said to them, like, I'm gonna not go back to firefighting. At that point, I wasn't healthy yet. I was still on crutches. But eventually I got my physical health back where I could have, and it was off duty. So like if you're on duty and get in an accident, that's different than when you're in your private life. So although, the fire department, I'm sure if I had continued to pursue that and reapplied and maybe went to a different department, it would have worked out. But I told Steve and Matt in that moment, I'm not gonna go back to firefighting. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm gonna do something to change the world.
Something big.
Something big. Then when I see you guys, you only got 21 years, but with however much time I get left, I'm gonna live big enough for all of us.
I'll stop you for a second because you said something profound right now. Because I'm always looking and I'm trying to read between the lines. I'm trying to figure out what can I take. The nugget that I took from here is this from you. It's like, look, we all are gonna go through life in a tragic situation. I mean, you're losing your two best friends 66 days from each other. I mean, I don't know who wouldn't. I'm depressed. I don't even know Steve and Matt. I'm depressed just thinking about it right now. You know what I mean? And gosh, like if you have it on camera, you might want to cut this out. Because, I got water in my eyes. It's water's not tears.
Yeah.
But I can see myself go through deep depression. I can see myself, popping pills just to, keep the pain. But at some point, you came to a realization that that's a cop-out. That's being a little bitch.
Yeah.
That's being a victim. And you're not doing anything to honor them if you just not doing anything with your life. So you made that into a pain point for you to go out there and change the world and change happen and in your own words to live for all three of us as there was three of you making an impact. And so for those of you who are listening to this right now, always remember, man, nobody goes through life undefeated. You're going to get knocked down. Life is not always going to be fair, because when you were just saying this to you right now, I was like, yeah, man, I would be angry at God like you were. I would be like, hey, why, right?
Totally.
But sometimes just God has bigger plans and bigger vision for you and your life and as a whole in the planet. And sometimes there is no explanation, just like your doctor couldn't explain to you why you were alive, and Steve wasn't. So that's the nugget that I took. And be able. I'm going to dig into your, dig into your history a little bit. Let's switch up to a little more positive now. Tell me about Sonia, because you guys known each other for a long time.
Right.
When did you meet her?
So I met my wife. Well, she wasn't my wife yet. In high school,
She didn't know it. She didn't know it yet. She didn't know it. She was your wife. She was your wife.
She'd have the pleasure, right, TT?
She didn't know it. You knew it. She didn't know it yet.
No, I didn't know it either.
I've done that before.
So we were in high school, and we were in very different social groups, right? In the socioeconomic ladder that is high school popularity. All I cared about was being the best in sports. I want to be the star athlete, date the hot chick, be, the popular guy. That's the only thing I cared about.
Well, you got the hot chick, Sonia, that's pretty hot.
Right, well, yeah, no. And she was just worried about getting straight A's. And so she had a lot of friends, but we were just on opposite ends of the social spectrum, where she had her group of math president nerd, and I had my group of jocks and big lifted trucks and all that stuff. And so that was it. So we talked 15 times in high school, and I'd kind of mess with her because she was beautiful in high school, just like she is now, smoking hot, and for some reason didn't care about what the popular girls cared about, which was mostly superficial stuff. Now that I've matured and looked back at it, she didn't care. I mean, she looked great. It's not like she just fell out of bed and walked into school with her hair sideways. She looked gorgeous, but she didn't care about what other people valued as cool. She did what she wanted to do, and that caught my attention. I was like, here's a chick that's hotter than the popular chicks who just doesn't give a crap about that and is just in her social group hanging out. So anyway, that was high school.
That's when you know you have a winner, man.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, when looking back at it, that's when you know you have a winner.
Totally.
When a chick is super hot, she doesn't care about what's popular. She does her own thing.
Yeah, she was just super deep in her relationship.
That's sexy, man.
I had 1,000 shallow friends. She had 12 deep friends, right? And I shouldn't say that. I had some really great, my boys, right, from my team and stuff. So if they're watching this, hey, I love you guys. But I was about quantity, not quality. She was about quality, not quantity. I graduate. I don't see her for 6 years. I think we bumped into each other once, but we are not friends. Our social circles don't overlap. We're just in different parts of life. And then I'm 25. She's 24. No, I'm 24, she's 23, and my buddies take me out to a sushi restaurant in Laguna Beach called Mosun.
Oh, yeah, Mosun. I like
You know
that.
Mosun?
Yeah.
So she was a bartender at Mosun. So we go there to eat sushi, and if you remember, the downstairs is a high-end sushi restaurant, the upstairs is a nightclub.
Yeah.
So we do the whole deal where we...
Is it still like that?
No, it's not even there anymore.
Yeah.
They bulldoze it to the ground and are building something new. But so anyway, I'm at that restaurant, and my waitress is taking forever to bring the drink, so I'm like, screw this, I'm gonna go get my own. Go to get a drink, and it's her. And now she's 6 years older than high school, and I don't know if you remember what the waitresses wore at Mosun, but it's like fishnet stockings with like knee-high boots, a black skirt, and like a black bustier with makeup on.
But you're
I was like, what? I was like, no way.
You probably went downstairs to buy a ring and came right back up.
Oh, dude, almost. I asked her out, and she said no. But dude, seriously, I was like, whoa.
We're like, damn, you grew up.
Yeah, that's exactly what I told her. I was like, Sonia? And she's like, Cole? It's like, oh my gosh, how are you? And she's like, I'm a bartender. And then we started talking. I was like, you freaking grew up. She had light brown hair in high school. It was as black as your Performante, like dyed black, you know? So it's like she just looks so different than high school and was now 23, not 17, right? Yeah. So
a lot can happen between 17 and 23.
Oh, totally. And she got better, right?
Oh,
and
yeah,
so,
for sure.
So I asked her long story short, I'm just hanging out with her the whole time. My buddies that I went with was like, you guys go do your thing.
Yeah, man,
I'm going to just lean up on this bar and talk to Sonia. And we were both single. She had broken up with her boyfriend like the day before, it turns out. Dead serious. I think it was like 1 or 2 days before. And my relationship had ended maybe 6 months earlier. So we're both single in that moment. And I ask her what time she's done. And the bars here in Southern California close at 2, as you know. Yeah. And so she said by the time she's done cleaning and doing her work, it's about 4 a.m. she gets out. So now after a few drinks,
I'll wait.
my brain's racking. What is open at 4 a.m.? And in Laguna Beach, there's a Denny's.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Because I've eaten at that Denny's at like 6 a.m. right before a surf sesh, right? So I was like, I know where this Denny's is. So I was like, 4 a.m., perfect. I'll come back and pick you up. Let's go out to Denny's for breakfast. Mm-hmm. And she didn't think about it. She wasn't like, I don't know. Let me think of it. Let me see. I'm going to be tired. She just looking around the face. She's like, no. And walked away.
She said no.
Just shut me down.
Shut you down? Oh.
Victoria's laughing. She knows the story. Yeah. Sonia just literally didn't even give me the courtesy of, I don't know, I'm kind of tired. Maybe later. Just no. Eyeballs, perfect contact.
Hey, you know
done.
what? I respect that. At least they didn't give you a runaround, man.
Oh, just shut me down.
Like, you don't say no, maybe, trying to give you a cop out. No, I respect that.
Yeah, just shut me down. I was like, all right, cool, thanks. And so then I was feeling a little deflated, but she did give me the courtesy of like, here's my number. And so I was like, no, it's not a date. Like, I just want to catch up. It's been 6 years since high school. Let's just catch up on each other's lives, right? That was the angle. It wasn't, hey, let's date. It was, let's just have a conversation. So she's like, listen, I'm not going to Denny's with you, but here's my phone number. If you want, someday we can catch up. And she told me that when she gave me that phone number, she never thought to hear from me again. Called her at 9 a.m. the next morning.
9 a.m.
None of these 3 days.
Like 7 hours later, man.
Dude, man, the fortune's in the follow-up, right? For any of you that are in sales. But so the next morning at 9 a.m. I call her, she doesn't answer. I text her at like 1, she doesn't respond. And by complete coincidence, a different buddy asked me if I want to get sushi at Mosun on Monday. And I met her on a Friday night.
Man, hey, that's a creepy. Hey,
I
that
swear.
sounds kind of creepy now, man.
I swear,
you
because
text her, then you go show up at her work.
So I texted her that. So on Sunday, I said, hey, our buddy Randy, who was a mutual friend of ours in high school, she knows who Randy is. I was like, Randy just asked me to go to Mosun on Monday. I'm going. Will you be working by any chance? And then finally, like Monday at 4 p.m., as I'm driving down to her restaurant, she writes back, says, I'm not working today, I'm at school. And I was like, cool, let's hang out tomorrow. And then she's like, sorry, I'm at school. And she had already told me the night when I met her that she went to Long Beach State. I live in Newport Beach, and she lived in San Clemente. So that means nothing to you watching this, but she had to drive right past my house to get home. Because from Long Beach, you have to drive through Newport to get to San Clemente. So I was like, perfect. When do you get out of class? She's like, 9. I was like, perfect. Let's meet at 9:30, McCormick and Schmitz. You have to drive around it to get home. Just stop and let's have a drink. And finally, she's like, okay. And so I met her Friday night. It's now Tuesday night after me harassing her for the weekend. She walks into McCormick and Schmitz. We catch up. That was the beginning of it. Broke the ice, enjoyed each other's company. And I think we spent like the next 50 straight days together, like all the way until the next January, because she went on a surf trip to Costa Rica. But like every day we were together, at least for a beer or something, if not together the whole day. And that was the beginning. And now it's 10 years later and she won't leave me alone.
Oh my God, what a story, man. Because I see you guys, man, you guys are like the perfect family, man. Beautiful, beautiful family, beautiful children.
I appreciate that, but it wasn't always easy. She dumped me in there too at one point.
Okay, so tell me about the dump.
Yeah, so it's 2 years into our relationship. We're absolutely like monogamous. It's not an open relationship. I'm faithful to her and I want to be in a relationship, but I was very clear with her that I would never get married. I had a previous relationship that ended poorly, and then I'd lost Steve and Matt, and I lost some other people in that same time frame too.
You told a woman that you're dating, seriously, you're not going to get married? You don't
I told her that from the date one, though. I literally, and she laughs about it. On our very first date.
Oh, so you disclosed that?
I told her from day one, I'll never get married to you or anybody. Like, I don't even know if we're going to go on another date, but I'll never marry you or anybody. And she knew about Steve and Matt because she was in high school with us. So I think she went to Steve's funeral and saw me there like all shredded up, like bandaged and torn to pieces. So she knew everything and understood where I was coming from. And at the beginning of our relationship, she's like, that's fine. I'm not looking for a ring. I don't even know if you're gonna be my boyfriend yet.
But then she started liking you, and she's like,
2 years later, we're going out to dinner. She's driving, I'm in the passenger seat, and she asks me, has your position on marriage changed at all? And I knew what she was fishing for. And she's like, don't think I need a ring. And I'm not even asking for you to marry me. I just want to know what your thoughts are, if anything's changed. And I had to be honest with her because she deserved that respect. So I looked her right in the eyes and I said, nothing's changed. Like, I'm yours. You don't have to worry. I'm not dating other girls. It's exclusive, but I can't get married. And you know why? So I was unhealthily thinking that anyone I loved would die, right? Or leave me. Yeah. Because of what experience I had from 21 to 25 at that point. Everyone had either left or died that I cared most about. And so I was like, I can't do anything about my mom and dad and sisters and like my immediate family, but nobody else is getting in that inner circle. Everyone else I'm keeping at an arm's length distance. So I told her nothing had changed. And she looked me right in the face and she said, well, I'm in love with you. And we weren't allowed to say the L word, right? This is like one of the first times ever. The only time it ever come out of her mouth is when she had too much to drink, right? So she looked me right in the face and said, well, I love you. And she said, I've loved you for a really long time.
So you guys been dating for 2 years and you guys never said I love each other?
They wouldn't let her. No, I mean, when we drink, yeah, but like.
When you drink.
Like when we hang out, it's like, all right,
what a dick, man.
I know, dude, I was broken. Well, and then she dumped me for it. So then she looked me right in the face and she said, I'm in love with you. I've loved you for a long time. And then she looked me right in the eyes. I'll never forget. She's like, but if you can't love me the way that I deserve to be loved, you can't have me. Get out of my car. I swear, it was just like that. And I was like, are you serious? We weren't fighting, everything was good. She was like, get out. And I was like, she's not serious. So I got out and I shut the door and I expected her to like sit there and think about it. She put it in reverse and left me in the parking lot. And this was 2010. Uber wasn't out yet. I had to call my mom to come pick me up, bro, because I couldn't call an Uber yet. And so, or I hadn't heard of it if it was out. But yeah, so that was
That
it.
wasn't even an ultimatum. That was just kick to the curb.
Yeah, she
usually
shut me
they give
down.
you an ultimatum, let you sit on it for a while. She didn't even let you think about it. She
No,
just
because
kicked
she
to the
knew
curb.
where I was coming from, and she understood. She didn't agree, but she understood. And so she respected that and said, hey, listen, I don't want to make any more memories with you if you're not going to be my husband. I'm 25 at this point, 26. And she's like, I don't need to get married now. She actually has told me she never even thought she'd get married until her mid-30s. But she's like, I don't want to create one more experience with you if it's all for nothing. So I'd rather be single than fall more in love with you if it's going nowhere.
It makes total sense, though.
It sucked for me, but I agreed with the logic. And so then I said, screw it. I'd shut my business down. It was the middle of the recession, 2010. I was getting hammered in business. So I moved to Mexico and I did missions work with a nonprofit down there for the next 7 months. And I ended up starting an orphanage while I was down there. And just working with those kids gave me healing, absolute healing. The fact that I was building houses for homeless families, starting an orphanage and feeding starving children, doing that 6 days a week.
Cool. I know you're big on giving back. Mm-hmm. I know with all the stuff that's happened to you, with Steve, with Matt and everything, I know you have such a big heart.
Thanks.
And I mean, I'm not just saying that because you're here. I see it.
Thanks.
And I know that was part of your healing process. Mm-hmm. Just giving back, going out there, and doing that. So the orphanage you started, and I know you're big, huge right now and still giving back and giving back to the community. What else are you doing right now for the community and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so it depends on the business, but that was really the beginning of it, and where this concept of make money matter came from, because now I had this orphanage that I helped start. There was a pastor and his wife that were there, and we're trying to make it work, and I brought in some of the resources they were lacking and collaborated with them, and now it's crushing, right? We have 26 kids there right now. And so that was the beginning of it, but I was living off what little bit of savings I had left, and I ran out of money, or I was about to run out of money. And so then I knew I needed to come back to America to start a nonprofit, to find wealthy people like you to send me checks every month to be able to take care of my kids. But the entrepreneur in me, and just to condense a timeline, I had ran my own business for 5 years very successfully, and then lost everything in the recession, moved down to Mexico, and this all happened. And so when I was down there, I had already been an entrepreneur. I had never made 7 figures in a year, but I was making over $500,000. My dad and I were business partners. Our business was doing 7 figures. My half was like,
Shout out to Big Sexy.
yeah, Big Sexy's the man. So Big Sexy and I were crushing it. We were making over $1 million a year, but you know, I would make 500-600. He'd make 500-600. So the point was, I'd already tasted success in my 20s too. So I was a total dumbass, and I spent all the money
We've all done that.
Oh my gosh! If I made 50 grand in a month, I had to spend 65.
Yeah.
And so, long story short, when I was in Mexico, I knew what it was like to be an entrepreneur. And so the thought of coming back to America, starting a nonprofit, and asking wealthy people to donate to me just didn't sit right. And the little entrepreneur in my mind said, it'd be better for you to start a business and sell people like Sam's stuff, and then what you're selling creates enough profit to then pay for the food at the orphanage. And right at that moment, Tom's Shoes had really hit the market in a big way and was becoming a household name. And Blake Mikowski, the founder of Tom's, when he created that company, it wasn't a nonprofit organization, but for every pair of shoes he sold, he gave a pair away. And so I was looking at that business model, I was like, this makes sense. Instead of going and starting a nonprofit and asking for money, I'm gonna start a business like Tom's that makes, Blake Mikowski, Tom's Shoes, that makes plenty of money, but built in the business model gives back. Yeah. And I was playing with it. I was like, it's not a nonprofit, it's not a for-profit, it's a for-purpose. And I was like, brilliant.
For-purpose.
For-purpose business.
For-purpose. It's not a nonprofit.
No.
It's not a for-profit. It's for purpose. Yeah. I love that.
Not to take away from Nike, but when Nike sells shoes, they make money. Yeah. And then there's nonprofits that do shoe drives and give shoes away. He bridged the gap.
Yeah, you do both.
And he's a for-profit. Last I heard, his net worth's estimated to be at $350 million. So Blake Mikowski's doing fine financially.
Yeah.
He's a for-profit business, but he on purpose harms his margins by giving a free pair of shoes away for every pair they sell.
There's no reason you can't do both in life.
No kidding. Well, then what's really smart, and we teach this at Thrive actually, is you just build the cost of that second pair of shoes into the brand itself. Yeah. And so like for you with your supplement line, right? You could add $3 to what your case of protein powders or whatever it is, and with that $3 partner with a local charity that feeds someone for a day. And you could say for every for every case of protein, you're feeding 10 families that month.
You know what, man? Just give me an idea, and I want to talk to you more about it and learn more about it, because you know what? That's the ultimate fulfillment, right?
Right.
It's one thing. Look, we all want to make money. We all have want a roof over our head and be able to feed our family. But after that, man, once you do that, what's next?
Right.
Right. What's next?
Legacy, dude. Impact.
Absolutely.
And so I always say this at my funeral. I don't quite have cars like these, but I've got mine.
You got some nice cars, man. Come on.
Okay, well, I got a few. But at my car, I don't want anyone to talk about the square footage of my home or the cars that I drove. I want everyone fighting over the microphone to talk about the meaningful impact I made in their lives with the time and resources I had available. And so, although I am living in my dream life right now, I live in my dream home in a great community. I have every dream car I've ever dreamed of owning, I bought. And literally the last acquisition on my list of someday I will own was 6 weeks ago. So that's cool. So
what was it?
H1 Hummer.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, dude.
I saw that's badass, bro.
Yeah, I got little quick cars like this, and I got my big old turbo diesel mega freaking. It's getting lifted right now, so it's not only gonna be a Hummer, it's gonna be a massive Hummer.
Damn.
Yeah, on 41-inch tires now.
I can't wait to check it out.
I picked it up this afternoon. I'm literally leaving here, and sometime this afternoon, sweeping by and picking her up.
It's lifted? Send me a picture.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. So long story short, I'm living my dream life, but proportionate to my income, without sounding like a dick, and I won't share the numbers, that's a fraction of my income.
Yeah.
I could live in a way more baller life than I do. And so what I tell people is, let's just say your dream life's spending $1 million a year on yourself. 6 figures a month, you can lease cars like these, you can live in beautiful homes, you can stay in the most beautiful hotels around the world on $100 grand a month, right? Everyone thinks you gotta be worth like your type of money to have success. You sure, but I mean, a 7 figures a year of discretionary income, there's really nothing you can't do. You can go get a freaking Performante on $100,000 a month and not even notice it's gone, right? So that being said, I said, if your dream life's $1 million a year, then do it. Blow $1 million on yourself frivolously, guilt-free, because you're making $2 million a year and giving half your money away. Yep. So I get to live in my dream home, drive my dream cars guilt-free, because at the end of the day, I'm doing things with my money that matter.
I always tell people this, man, Cole, look, after a certain amount of money, it's like the diminishing return of what money actually does for your personal life, right?
Sure.
I mean, look, like you live in a beautiful mansion, you have the cars that you want, beautiful family, you can go eat at any restaurant. You can go anywhere in the world. Let's just say now you made 100 times more or 10 times more what you did. will your lifestyle be that much different? It won't be that much different because, I mean, you have everything that you want.
My wife
right?
and I have talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
And so materialistically, nothing will change.
Yeah.
We will, if I make 10 times more money, hire more people to do more stuff we don't want to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like right now we have a house cleaner that comes, but like I would have somebody, and we could afford this now, but wifey is from a third world country, super frugal. She keeps me grounded.
Well, you saw mine, man. Mine's here 7 days a week.
Yeah, exactly. So wifey, like, you know, she's still doing the laundry and grocery shopping and cooking the meals because like part of her culture, like she feels like she's taking care of the family. But now that she's my business partner, I was like, not to sound like a chauvinist at all.
No,
but
it's not the best use of our
I
time.
need you to be building this business with
yeah.
me. And the fact that you're cleaning dishes for 45 minutes and cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
No, because building a business is going to make a bigger impact to other people.
Right, and so she's finally kind of coming around the curve because her cultural upbringing from Yugoslavia was the way that you love your family is to do these things. And so she's cried about it. She gets judged online and stuff for you haters out there that suck. But
why she get judged online? For what?
Dude, because there are certain women that like will see our lifestyle and they say things like, you know, Sonia, you should be not running the business and you should just be like changing diapers. And I was like, dude, that's like, that's like reverse chauvinism.
You know what? You know, who are anyone to tell anyone to live their life? We're not
totally.
You know, Sonia's not judging them.
No, yeah,
you know
totally.
what I mean? And all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you know what, man? This whole social media thing and all that kind of stuff. You know, when somebody messaged me about like, you know, let's just say, you know, you or someone else, you know, oh, I don't like this person. I've never had somebody message me about you, but people have messaged me from other people in your position and in your power. I don't like this person. I'm like, well, if you don't like him, message him.
Yeah.
Why are you messaging me about it?
No, totally. And I always say when people judge you, there's something in themselves that you're doing that's irritating them. So it doesn't really bother me. But the only thing that would change is I would just have like people around the house doing everything. So like I wake up, the food's already cooked and ready. And I can just spend that time with my family instead of with my girls while the wife's cooking the food. And then we crush our businesses and magically all the clothes are being washed and all the groceries are done, or groceries are purchased and dishes are done. And that literally my wife doesn't have to do any of that stuff. Again, we have the money to do it right now, but we've talked about it. She's like, okay, if our business got that big, then I would literally stop doing everything. And you know, that's caused some problem even within her own family, like her aunts that are like, same thing culturally, like Sonia, like, don't forget you need to do these things for your husband. Like the way they love their husband is to like cook and clean for them. Again, in America, it's very different, but where she comes from, and my wife, we all have, you know, European or foreign roots from our ancestry. She was born and raised there. She's an immigrant. So my wife immigrated here. So she was born and raised in that culture. So if we were 10 times what we are now, she would do nothing other than play and work with me in the business, and everything else of getting cars washed and all that, it would just magically happen. Yeah. And again, we can afford that now, but that's like her thing. Other than that, our life wouldn't change. We would just have 10 times more money to give away.
So I know, you know, you right now, you have the real estate investment company, you have your real estate company, you have a digital marketing company. You know, tell me about your business ventures and what each business does and why is it different than another real estate investing company or another digital marketing company and all that. And then I wanted to also talk about your event coming up, Thrive, because, you know, last year, I don't know, I think I was in Hawaii. I didn't make it, but man, the feedback that I got from it, you know, the feedback that I got from it was just absolutely just amazing. I mean, I'm not saying that because you're here, you're my brothers. I will tell you if it sucked, I'll tell you it sucked. I don't give a fuck. Well, here's what's the feedback that I got. You know, great content, no pitches, no hard sales. You know, and if somebody had something to sell, it wasn't like 50 minutes of, 10 minutes of content, 50 minutes of pitch. It was just a little, hey, by the way, we have this. And I know that what I know about you, and you've been in all the events and all that kind of stuff, you made that happen. And I've got nothing but, just like I said, tremendous. This year you have Andy, you have ET, you have some of the most amazing speakers there. And this year I made my wife, because my wife is due any minute, and she's actually due July 11th, which is like in 7 weeks. And I told her, I said, look, man, last year I didn't go to Kohl's. I said, this year you gotta let me go to Kohl's. But if something happens, I'm gonna get on a jet. I'm gonna come right back.
Like half my speakers own private jets, so there'll be one for you to hop on. I promise. Just be like, it'll be like grabbing the keys to go grab beer. Like, hey, who wants beer? Throw me the keys of your car. I'll be like, who wants to lend me a jet? So you're in good company. I don't have a jet, by the way, but half the speakers do. So you'll be taken care of. But yeah, so, and I'll own that, by the way. Thrive is the greatest event on earth, and I can say that and still have humility because the young woman behind the camera over here, my wife and my team, basically do all of it, and then the content is the speakers. I hardly speak at Thrive. I only speak for like maybe a few minutes on each day. So why I boldly declare it's the greatest event on earth is because it's not an ego stroke. It's credit to the speakers who bring amazing content and credit to my team that actually produce it. So yes, it is the best event on earth, and it's the only one that I've ever seen where nobody sells anything.
There is nothing wrong when you get up and say it's the best speaker because you worked on it.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
Muhammad Ali said he was the greatest and he proved it. Floyd Mayweather said he was the best, you know, the best ever. He proved it. There's nothing wrong with declaring the best as long as you know in your heart that you've done everything that's the best. So I love the fact that you stand up and you declare and you actually deliver on that promise.
And there's Inc., Forbes, HuffPost, and Entrepreneur.com.
That said so.
That's the best too. So I like when people say like, I'm the best there is. It's like, says who? Your mother?
Yeah,
She's biased. Like, who says you're the best, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the Better Business Bureau. Okay, well then that's some credibility, or in this case, all those publications. But I think your question was about my real estate and other businesses. What makes it different? So my real estate investment business is multifaceted. I invest in residential real estate for like the active income, buy, fix, and flip. We actually had a property hit market yesterday. We're doing a big flip in Laguna Beach. We had one down in Carlsbad. So all over Southern California.
I've been in one of your properties.
Oh yeah, where was that? Sherman Oaks.
Yeah, I've been in one. Yep.
But that was a big one. Bought that for $2.5 million, putting $1 million into the renovations. So we'll be into it 3.5 and then sell 4.7, 4.9. That's the biggest one yet. But so we take that money, and then of course part of that provides for my lifestyle, but then the rest we're buying and holding apartment buildings. So multifaceted in that we make active income and residential. When we get these checks from escrow of our closing, take what we need to live off of, pay taxes, whatever, and then all the rest of it, we go and we buy apartment buildings in the Midwest, either individually or through syndications. So one thing that's unique to us is we actually create opportunity for investors who are accredited, like yourself. And if people don't know what that is, Google it. It's super simple definition, but it's just based on income brackets. But if you make enough money, you are automatically considered to be an accredited investor. We raise
it's like $100,000 a year, isn't it? Something like that?
So if you're unmarried, it's $200,000 last 2 years. If you're married, it's $300,000
Got it.
between you and your spouse for the last 2 years, or a net worth of $1 million or greater, excluding equity in your primary residence. Right? So that's it. So if you know that you make more than that, you automatically are. So for people at that income level, they then give us money that we then go and buy apartment buildings with. And without getting too much into the details, it's an LPGP agreement. So they're not a lender, they're actually an owner with us. Probably the biggest guy out there doing this right now is Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
If you watch any of his stories, every other post is swipe up to invest in Cardone Capital. We do the same thing, but at a different level, not at the scale he's doing it at. So our investors are very actively involved, not necessarily in doing the work, but just of knowing what the numbers are, knowing what the deals are. And so that's one thing we do in real estate. So buy, fix, and flip residential, take what we need, put all the rest into apartments, and the ones that I can't afford to buy, we do in syndications. I was just involved in a syndication on a property. It was a 243-unit apartment building that closed in Louisville, Kentucky. I always thought it was Louisville. I was corrected. It's Louisville.
It is?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I grew up playing with Louisville Sluggers, and apparently it was a Louisville Slug. Yeah.
Okay.
When I was there calling it Louisville, everyone's like, you idiot, it's Louisville. It's like, well, excuse me. But so we just closed on a 243-unit apartment building. That was a $16.9 million acquisition. $5 million was raised for the down payment and some CapEx, capital expenditures to fix things. And so friends of mine put that deal together, and I got to be an investor in that. So buying big apartments to little 20 units in Atlanta, that's where the money goes. And that's really what I do with my real estate business. Big Sexy is my business partner there.
Which is your dad, man. Shout out.
He does the day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
People ask me how I own multiple businesses, and the answer is I'm not the operator in any of them. I'm just the big thinker, problem solver, decision maker, and there's a key operator in each. And they get paid bonuses or more for that. So my dad makes more money in my real estate business than I do.
As he should. He's running it.
My digital marketing agency, I have a key player there. He makes more money than I do. Yeah. And then in Thrive, my wife makes more money than I do. Even though we're married, on paper, she makes more money than I do, even though it all ends up in the same spot. But because I get a piece of all the action, I make the most.
Absolutely.
And so for any of you out there who want to scale and run multiple businesses, underneath different umbrellas, like real estate has nothing to do with marketing, has nothing to do with Thrive. It's not like it's a natural progression of a product line. It's a whole different business, whole different industry, whole different offering. I just have a key player that builds it with me. And then once it's systemized and fairly automated, I then kind of remove myself from the operations and I just kind of spin in circles. I do real estate, then I do digital marketing, and then I work on Thrive, and I just keep making those rotations.
For people who are watching or listening to this right now, here's the takeaway that I'm getting. So one, you realize that you're not a strong operator. You don't want to be in the day-to-day operations. That's not what you enjoy. That's not what you like.
I hate it.
I know you hate it, and I hate it too. I had to realize that, because when I was doing it, I was just miserable, right? Mm-hmm. So then you either partnered up or hired someone, to be able to run that part of it, and you knew that for that part to be successful, you couldn't be making more money than them, because you're really not that there. You're the big thinker. They're the ones that's putting the blood, sweat, and tears, the sweat equity. So you're okay giving a large piece of the pie away for you to take a small piece, but your small piece of each pie equals larger than any one big piece.
100%.
You know what I mean? And that's huge, man. That's what I took away from that. Yeah. And for because a lot of times, what I see with a lot of business owners, a lot of so-called big thinkers, which they think big, they're actually not big thinkers, because what they're trying to do is maximize each pie for themselves. And then what's going to happen? They're going to have operational problems, employee problems, partnership problems, and that's what sooner or later is going to come back. Because if somebody's putting all the blood, sweat, and tears, then they need to be able to be properly compensated.
Right, totally. And so it's getting the big picture. Obviously, we want to make as much money as we can for our time. But for me, at the end of the day, I love my cars, as do you. I love my lifestyle, but I love my freedom most. Yeah. And there isn't a price I wouldn't pay to be free. Yeah. And so the fact that it's 11 a.m. right now on a Friday, and I can leave, including the trip back and forth, for 3.5 hours, and that type of freedom to hang out with a bro in a freaking a man cave that makes me jealous, is the type of freedom that's worth taking a smaller piece of the pie and bring people in. And there's this huge push right now for solopreneurs, right? I have friends out there that just pound the solopreneur thing. And I'm not here to judge how anyone runs a business. And if that's your game and you love the laptop lifestyle, cool. But I would bet you that if you were willing to bring on a partner and pay them a little bit more to handle almost everything, that even if you end up making only 80% what you used to, the fact that you have a wide open schedule, you're gonna get bored and you're gonna start something new. And then you might only make 80% of that, but together that's more than you ever had. So again, I'm not here to knock the solopreneur, but I did that for a long time. But as soon as I started expanding the team and bringing in operators, my quality of life and my freedom's higher.
So why Thrive? Why? So you're killing it, in your businesses, So why Thrive? I mean, what made you come up with that? What made you say, I want to put on an event? And what is the end goal of that?
Because I promised Steve and Matt, man. Yeah. It's the fulfillment of a promise I made to them freaking December 18th after popping a ton of morphine and getting ready to do who knows what with my life. And so Thrive is the absolute, they say some things you find, other things find you. Thrive found me. And so the commitment I made to Steve and Matt and my own life experiences, I grew up very involved in the church. I'm a man of faith, and in my younger childhood experiences, my parents would partner up with the church. We'd go down to Mexico and we'd build a house for homeless family, whatever. So philanthropy was ingrained in my upbringing. So that's a part of my story. Living in Mexico and accidentally starting that orphanage and running out of money and then deciding to come back and create for-purpose businesses, that was a part of my story. Losing Steve and Matt was the catalyst that gave me the energy and the focus to do it all. And so why Thrive was I ended up back home from Mexico. I came home in the spring of 2011, broke, had no money, had spent it all down there, restarted my real estate business, got things in order, started making more money than I ever had in my life, and then started those, like we said, for-purpose businesses that they don't just make money, they make it matter. And that's why the whole theme of Thrive is make money matter. And so started giving back, and it caught attention. And as I worked really hard, I started meeting guys like yourself that are influencers, like Lewis House and John Lee Dumas. And John Lee Dumas asked me to get on his podcast once, and I talked about these for-purpose businesses that I was running. And I just got flooded with DMs on social media. People like, I just heard your episode. I want my business to work like that. I was just talking to you about you can shake your protein powder, and for each canister, you just make it $3 more expensive again. And you're like, oh my gosh, I want to talk to you.
Yeah, I do.
So every person who isn't a douchebag who hears this wants to do it. Yeah. There's no one that's like, F helping people. I want to keep it on myself, right? And so as I started sharing this narrative that, hey, your money doesn't have to just be spent on consumerism, live your dream life, but then make sure you make your money matter. It was clear that people were thirsty for that type of a business and that people wanted to hear about it. And so my wife and I were like, screw it, maybe we just do a live event. Like there's all these entrepreneurs that say they want to learn it. Let's just put our balls out there, freaking rent a hotel space somewhere and see what speakers we can get. And that turned into Thrive #1. It was at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. And I got some of my friends like John Lee Dumas and Lewis Howes to say yes. And then I asked Lewis Howes for an introduction to Gary Vaynerchuk. I asked him and he said yes. And then we just reached out to Robert Herjavec from Shark Tank cold on his website that says like, book me to speak, and went through this massive vetting process. But when we told them what we were doing, like, hey, listen, this isn't a pitch fest. We're just gathering entrepreneurs together to teach them how to use their businesses to change the world. Robert said, heck yes, I'm in. So once I had like those 4 faces, Robert Herjavec from Shark Tank, Gary Vaynerchuk, Lewis Howes, and John Lee Dumas, then no matter who I asked, they wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And we ended up with 26 speakers and 450 people, and we did Thrive #1. And it was a one-off. We never intended it to become a movement or a business. It was over, and my wife and I were like, oh, we're done, high five. We did what we said we would do. And then we started getting the floods of
What's the next
feedback.
What's the next one?
Like people that were literally suicidal that had decided, not necessarily the date or means that they would end their life, but that they were done and had come to terms with, one of them actually just like told us this recently, that they had come to terms with, I'm not gonna live. Like, I'm at a place in my life now where I've made the decision I'm gonna kill myself, and I'm going to figure out what that looks like. How am I gonna do it? Where's it gonna be and when? And that person, many of them ended up at that Thrive event. And Thrive is so much more. It's not personal development. It's not just business. It's like it shifts your soul.
Yeah.
And those people left with like having a purpose to live again. And so we got a flood of testimonials from people like that via social media. And then one all the way now 5 years later, who's a good friend of ours, who I met at Thrive 1, told us that that was his position. His wife had just left and he was in a bad spot. And he's like, cool, I'm out. I'm just gonna go to Vegas and like have one more hoorah. And that event saved his life. So my wife and I were like, okay, we didn't pick Thrive. Thrive now picked us. Let's just do it one more time. So Thrive #1, we did as a one-off. Thrive #2, we did as a one-off. And then at about Saturday evening of Thrive #2, my wife and I looked at each other and we're like, we've got to just keep this up. So this is now going to be Thrive 5. And like looking back from a branding standpoint, I wouldn't have called it Thrive probably, although it represents what we teach people to do to thrive in business and life. I can't own the term Thrive. Okay. Arianna Huffington's book is called Thrive. There's a supplement company or a multi-level marketing company called Thrive. It's funny, there's actually a marijuana dispensary in Vegas called Thrive. So when I tell people I run Thrive in Vegas, they're like, oh, you sell weed. It's like, no, that's a different Thrive. So from a branding standpoint, I might have thought through that a bit more, but because we were only doing it once, there were no long-term considerations. It was just, how are we gonna fill this event? But other than that, we're gonna go as long as we can. And so, although it's only been 4 years, because we pulled the first one off in 90 days, and then it was always in September, and then this last year, I moved it to May, which is next week. So that was only a 7-month run. So because we did the first one in 3 months, this last one in 7 months, it's only been 4 years, but this will be the 5th Thrive. And we're gonna have almost 2,000 total people there when you talk about all the humans. We have 1,500 attendees plus, but then you, speakers, all these people that are coming and bringing teams and stuff, there'll be about 2,000 people there.
Awesome, man. Well, so if someone is been under a rock, they don't know who you are, real estate company, they want to invest with you, how do they find out more about that? Yeah, so whatever you want to connect on, just at social media, I'm at Cole Hatter, and Instagram is really the only one I manage. Everything else is really her doing it all. So if you DM me on Instagram, I should see it. Although I didn't know this, Instagram has 2 inboxes, and almost all of them go to the other. Yeah, so I got to start going through those. But hit me up on Instagram. It's at Cole Hatter, one word, no underscores, no dots, just my name, Cole Hatter. Or if they want to check out Thrive, just attendthrive.com. And attendthrive.com? Yep, attendthrive.com for the event. And then that's literally this weekend coming up. Yeah. This weekend coming up. So if you are looking to go to any one, event, go to one that you're not getting pitched on. There's a bunch of people just, selling a bunch of crap. Go to one that you're going to learn from. And this is what Thrive is all about. I'm going to be there. And if you're going to go, make sure you come see me, come say hi. It's going to be an event that's going to change your life. And you've got a promo code. Your name's Sam. Put my promo code. You guys get a huge discount. I forgot about that. Yeah, I don't remember what the discount is, but I know that a few people have bought tickets, and I see that it says promo code Sam. So his people are coming. Where are you? Let's get it, man. Cole, I know you got a lot of shit to do right now. I know you're busy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For you to be here, just a week before your event, it's a pleasure. That tells me you're a real bro.
Thanks,
I appreciate
man.
it.
Of course.
Go pick up your Hummer. Send me a picture.
For sure.
Love and respect, brother.
Right,
Take
likewise,
care.
bro.
Thanks. Hey guys, if you like today's episode, do me a huge favor. Go and leave a comment below. Subscribe to the channel. Leave me a review and tag a few friends that you think can benefit from what we shared today. Really appreciate it. God bless.